looking back, what was draft weekend like for you? Like, what do you remember? What do you recall about that experience? And then obviously, everything that followed after that. What are some of the memories that pop up for you when you look back?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting to get a phone call on either of the first 2 days, so I didn't really have any hopes. But there was a hope on the third day that maybe I would get a call, and never came. But my agent had been talking to a good amount of teams, and we had agreed, with the Dolphins, if no one was going to select me, that I would sign with them. So the day was still fun, just because I knew, I had a spot where I was going to land as a priority free agent. In the back of your mind, though, you want to get drafted, just because that it's a great feeling. But in the end, it worked out. I was with my girlfriend, one of my best friends from high school, and we were just kind of watching TV, eating snacks, and then went out and got a Dolphins T-shirt. We went to like 6 different stores just to get a Dolphins T-shirt, because that's kind of hard to do in Southern California. And yeah, so the day, I have a good memory of the day, even though I wasn't selected.
We hear a lot of free agent stories, and I'm curious what yours was like when you got to the final round. Some players have said they didn't want to get picked so they could choose their destination, almost like a preferred walk-on.
Right.
What was it like for you?
It ended up, like, in retrospect, ended up being this amazing thing, because I was able to choose an organization that I just fit in perfectly with. And it was funny, I was actually watching, in the 7th round, I'm watching, and Myles Gaskin gets chosen by the Dolphins. And I had already told the Dolphins I was going to sign with them if I wasn't selected. And I just spent the last few months training with Myles. So I'm like, what's this going to be like? And that actually ended up being one of the best things for me. And I think he might say the same, as we just worked really well together. And I feel like I wouldn't have made the team if he wasn't drafted by them. It was one of those relationships where we made each other better, and we both ended up making the team.
You wouldn't imagine a running back deciding as a free agent to go to a place that just drafted a running back and a guy that you played against and you knew. Why did you double down on that decision?
I made the decision not even looking at, who else was on the depth chart and, all that stuff. We really made the decision because the organization had reached out to my agents and expressed, this is why we like Patrick. This is what we're trying to do. And I just love that story that they were saying, we want to build an organization around like tough, hardworking, disciplined players. And we think he might, have that skill set. And so I was worried a little bit, when they selected him, but I just, I thought about it for a few minutes. I called my agent. We kind of talked for a few minutes. I said, you know what, I'm going to stick with them. We'll make it work however it happes.
So what was your first conversation with Myles then?
I texted him like that day. I was like, I forget what I said, but, we just started talking, like, yeah, excited to, work with you again. Cause we had been training together, and we became like good friends while we were training. I actually went up to Seattle and trained at a gym up there before pro day. And so we were good buddies, and I was like, yeah, it's going to be fun working together. Let's get to work and get ready. But yeah, it was pretty funny.
Patrick, there are a lot of Pac-12 guys who might find themselves in a similar situation, who will find themselves in a similar situation in terms of not being drafted and going the free agent route. What is your advice to them as you look back? Is there something that you wish you had kind of known about the process that would be helpful?
I'd say it's really hard. Or it depends on where you go, but it's tough. It's a full-time job. It's work. You don't have class to go to kind of avoid your coaches. Like when you go to meetings, you're in meetings with your coaches and your coworkers, and you go to the practice field and you get off the practice field. It's like, it's a full-time job. It's work. It's hard. And it's especially hard for the first 3 months. But if you put in a consistent amount of time every day and consistent effort, you will be, by the end of that 3 months, from, the week you fly out till, the end of training camp, when your last preseason game, you'll be far ahead of the guys that show up, they work hard for a couple weeks, and then they kind of fall back into their old routine. So just get consistent with doing the extra, little things, studying your playbook. And I saw it pay off for a lot of my teammates that made the team. It paid off for Myles and I. And that's my main advice. So just be consistent with the hard work and do the little things right. And eventually it'll pay off. If you don't make that organization, you'll make your spot somewhere else.
When I think about you, the phrase uncommonly consistent comes to mind. Like, your narrative has been consistent. The way you worked has been consistent. Curious for you, did you ever think about not even trying out for the NFL at all because of your degree and the type of student that you were? And it's not like you were projected as a day 1 or day 2 running back in the NFL.
It didn't know it. After my junior year, it didn't cross my mind. I was set on, playing in the NFL and trying. Maybe if I had gotten a different injury, maybe my senior year, because I was injured in our bowl game my senior year, which was a bummer. But maybe if there's a different type of injury, I would have, hung it up. But I was pretty set. I have my degrees from Cal, and I have all the people I met there and all the connections and all that. I could continue to talk to them as I play professional football, but I'm going to try as hard as I can for a year. And I did it. And so now I'm going to try to play as long as I can.
I think that's really well said. There's so many athletes that face adversity and choose to push through. And a lot of times they do, if they commit to that. You faced some adversity when you got to Miami that maybe you didn't expect. And I believe the story goes that you were at dinner and you were sitting around some staffers and they thought that you were a staffer, not a player.
Right.
How did that land on you?
That's another consistent story throughout my life. Like, going back to, basketball tournaments when I was in like 6th or 7th grade, or passing tournaments in high school. I remember people always saying, like, before the game, we didn't think you were even like a player, like we just didn't think you'd be that good. And then, I make a couple plays and I'm like, okay, this guy can actually, play, basketball or football or whatever it was. So anyways, that story is funny because I show up to the cafeteria, and this is at a time, for whatever reason, players aren't there. Maybe, some other people went home. So I sat down with some operations people, some of the operations guys I knew, and some operations interns came and sat down with them. And I'm just talking to some of the guys, some of them are still undergrads. I'm saying, hey, how's this going for you? Are you enjoying it? What are you studying in college? Why Miami? And after about 10 minutes, one of them looks at me and goes, so what do you do here? And I'm like, I'm on the team. And he was super apologetic. But anyways, I told that story to the team just because I thought it would be funny to tell. Rookies get called down all the time. You got to sing a song or tell a joke. And I decided to tell that story. And from then on, some of the offensive coaches called me the intern.